Today's session is all about, leading yourself well in a digital world. And, it's really leadership skills, particularly because of the environment we have ourselves in now, but particularly the leading yourself skills in terms of, we've been in a connected world, a digital world for a while now, and it just has forced us to go deeper with these lockdowns and everything. And we really have to think about how do we manage ourselves in this type of environment. And what I found is we kind of we're having to make more choices now because the options and the information, everything is so we have to make better choices. And today I'm going to give you kind of an interesting framework to think about this. Okay, and I've studied the leading yourself. I studied personal development. In fact, I actually did personal development training many years ago when I first started in my own business and so forth. So I had all different types of frameworks, and you get a lot of different ways that you can do it. You see a lot of time management courses, but you can't manage time. You can only manage what you do at that time. In other words, the choices and the decisions you make around how you use that time. So today it's all about, giving you like a framework, a couple ideas in terms of how you can be more productive. I'm not going to give you the answers really, because there's, if you think about it, they say personal productivity. Well, it's personal. How you're productive is different than how other people are productive. So I want to give you some sort of a framework for you to think about how can you make better choices about how you use your time. Okay, so that's what today is all about. And the framework is going to be around those 5 words there: why, what, who, when, and where. The first 3 are very, very powerful. And the second 2 are not used often in terms of people don't think of those often. So I heard some noise in the background. If you could go on mute, that'd be great. So let me just share with you one thing about the digital world we are now. The digital life has really become your real life, especially with these lockdowns. And there's 3 main things that I found that we're dealing with in a particularly a digital world, a connected world as we have. We have information overload. It's incredible, the amount of information that we're bombarded with in terms of what's available, online, social media, everywhere, news, etc. And think about this, only 200 years ago, the average person in their total lifetime, right, in their whole lifetime, in terms of information that they dealt with, is now in one daily paper. So you can imagine we're just bombarded with so much information. Our minds or our brains haven't evolved at the rate that we have to absorb or information and so forth. So, let me share with you one idea to think about for yourself is that we have to start making conscious decisions on what we don't need to know. Right? Because if you want to know anything, you can Google it. And if you want to be aware of everything, you can have all the news alerts and all these other things happening. But if we're going to be focused on taking action on what we want to do, we have to decide maybe up front, what don't we need to know? And how do we want to take this information in? And I think that's a real key one because, if if knowing everything or having a lot of knowledge was the key to success, the librarians would be the most successful people in the world, not the business people. So, keep in mind this for yourself in terms of what don't you need to know? Because we're always going to be overloaded unless we make a choice about the information that's most important for us. And then we get it in the way that is best for us. So I can't tell you how best to get the information. I can tell you that for a lot of people, turning off a lot of your alerts on anything is one of the most powerful ways to take more control of it because those alerts are taking control of your attention every time they pop up. The second thing is we're kind of in emotion overload. Okay, the amount of social media that you're into, you're always, kind of instant gratification type of thing. But I read someone go on mute. That'd be great. And I read somewhere that the average person spends at least 2 to 3 hours on social media every day. Okay, the average teenager spends at least 7 hours on their phone every day. So you can imagine that with all this stimulus and so forth, We want to be instantly gratified. We want to have something right away. We're bombarded. We see other people's lives and so forth. We want to have that, etc. We start comparing our life to other people. So our emotions are being bombarded all the time, as well as the information, as I said. And then there's that other thing, FOMO, the fear of missing out. So if I don't check the social media, I don't check this, I don't check that, I might have missed something, about what's happening. So we're all, what do we miss? The likes and all these. So, in terms of information and all these others, we have those kind of things that are happening. But if you think about it, the digital world creates an advantage for you to have it interact and for you to have business in the whole world if you want. So there's just unbelievable more opportunities for everybody. So more opportunities means you have to make more choices and you have to make better choices. And so what I would like to share about today is, how do you take all this in and you start to make better choices about how you use your time or where you put your focus. In other words, stay in the driver's seat versus being driven around all the time. Because if you react to all these things that are around you, you're not in the driver's seat, you're in the passenger seat. And some people aren't even in the car, they're in the trunk because they're just reacting to everything that's there. Okay? So consider those three key things. Information overload. Decide what you don't need to know. Emotion overload. Think about how you use all these social medias and everything to your advantage and not just to stay up to date on everybody's lives. And then, think about what don't you want to be missed out of or what do you want to be included in that is very important for your life. Because to be honest, we can miss out on a lot of things that aren't key for us being successful either in our work life or our family life that way. Okay. So today it's all going to be about those options. You have unbelievable more opportunities, but those only opportunities or advantages if you make the right choices towards it. Okay. So keep in mind that, and keep in mind this, the digital world is there for providing us that instant gratification. And if you think about it, really what makes us successful are two key things: passion, that's an energy we bring to what we want to do and achieve, and discipline. And discipline. So, we have that energy, but we need a focus to use that energy in the right way. So I found that the most successful people aren't always grab the attention of instant gratification. They're thinking about, what I want, and they're always putting that sort of image of what they're going to achieve in their mind, and making progress on that achievement is more important just to have that instant gratification. So what I found is that it's good to have a passion behind something because a passion means energy. But energy it's not directed in the right way or not focused with some type of discipline is not going to get you very far. So, keep in mind that as you go through these things today. And here's the real framework that we're going to talk about in those choices. And we're going to have choices around, of course, the why, and I'm going to choose so what, yes and no, who, when, and where. And these five particular W's is key for you to being more proactive towards how you address your day than reactive. Okay. And so keep in mind, and this is what we're going to use for making those choices. But the thing to think about right up front before anything, the most powerful criteria for a choice is your direction, the direction you want to take in your life and what you want to achieve. Because when your direction is clear and your emotion behind it is clear, it creates a dominant thought. And that's a choice. Is this taking me faster towards where I want to go? Or is it going to slow me down where I want to go? There was a very successful salesman one time that was told a phrase that made him the number one salesperson. And the phrase that a sales guru and a motivational speaker gave him was this: how would the person I'd like to be do the things I'm about to do? In other words, the person I'd like to achieve this, that type of person, would they procrastinate? Would they put things off? Okay. And so I thought that was a very powerful, but the thing for you to think about is that who is the person that can achieve what you would like to achieve and start deciding, making choices as that person would do today, even before you become that person. Okay, it's like telling the truth in advance. But the only way you really keep a direction very powerful and clear in your mind is through reflection. And so we all have to be our own coach. We have to be our own coach and sort of reflecting, is what I'm doing and what I'm focusing on going to get me to that future I want faster? Okay. And it's always an and too. It's not just the future of your business, but it's the future of your family as well. So I found that the most successful people, when they have a direction in terms of three things. I'll give you a tip, is that they have a direction in terms of their business. So that's a powerful direction they want to have. They have a direction in terms of their family, okay, because that's another important part. But I've never seen a very successful and the happiest person without also having a direction for themselves. In other words, what they want to achieve in terms of their hobbies or themselves, that's outside of the family and outside of work, that's just for them. So if you think about it, you have three types of lives that you really want to be productive in. You want to be productive in your work life, you want to be productive in your family life, and you want to be productive in your own life in terms of what you want to achieve. And I found that direction is a powerful one to keep in mind, not just focus areas and so forth, but where do I want to head? Because that creates kind of a pulling power to do what you'd like to achieve. Okay, so kind of a long introduction for this one, but let's go through now the W's. And then after I get through these things, I'll open this up for uh, for questions and answers then too. So the first W is really why. You know, think about this. You know, make a choice. What do you want? Is it what you want now or what you want most? The most powerful definition of procrastination I ever heard is this: procrastination is the opportunity to give yourself advice. Hey guys, if you put yourself on mute, I'll get some background noise here. So keep that in mind in terms of your own thinking. Procrastination is giving up what you want most for what you want now. Okay. So, as much as you can, it's, am I doing this because I want to feel good now? Or am I doing this because I want to feel great later because I'm going to be able to accomplish this? And it's all around sort of managing your emotions. The more you can manage your emotions, the more successful you're going to be, because you'll know which emotions you can trust and which emotions you can't trust. Okay, so keep that in mind. It's really a choice between what I want now or what I want most, or the emotion I want to feel now, or the emotion I want to feel when I'm going to make some progress towards achieving that. And so, you do your best in anything when you manage your emotions in the right way and sort of keep that direction. And the more you have a powerful dominant thought in terms of what you want to achieve or direction you want to go, the more you can balance off that immediate emotion of, I don't feel like doing it right now. Okay. And so I guess the basic thing around this one is, I don't feel like doing it, but I'm going to do it anyway. Okay. And the more you do it, even though you work your way through it, the bad emotion, the more successful you're going to be. It's like anybody when they want to go out for a run sometimes. They had a tough day and everything. They say, I'm tired. Maybe I just relax with a glass of wine or something. But then 10 minutes into the run, they're so happy they did it. So sometimes we have to start taking action before the emotion kicks in that helps us to continue taking that. It's kind of like writers, when they say they need to write. I don't feel like writing right now, but once I get into the process of writing, I start to get that feeling. So the most important choice here is, am I doing what I want most, or am I doing what I want now? Okay. So you think about those. Are your emotions helping you get what you want? Or are your emotions just triggering the need to get it what you want right now? Okay. And so we're going to achieve what we want more when we manage our emotions. So if you think about it, success is not always convenient. We're always going to do things we don't necessarily want to do. And think of it this way, in order to have a successful life, there's going to be parts of it that aren't going to be so enjoyable sometimes or so convenient. I was listening to a preacher one time. In fact, he was saying a sermon about creating your ideal life, and he brought up an idea around this one. He used a pound cake in the U.S. People when they bake a pound cake. I think in the UK, your sponge cake is a popular one as well, and so forth. But he says, think about it. When you create a cake, it has different ingredients in it, and it has flour, sugar, eggs, they say vanilla extract, etc. But individually, those ingredients aren't necessarily always the best. So how would it be if you were to eat 200 grams of flour? Okay, it wouldn't be very tasty. Or maybe you ate 200 grams of caster sugar, right? It'd be very, very sweet, wouldn't be very good. But you mix all those up and you bake it, and it's a delicious cake. Okay, and it's an amazing. So it's the same thing in life. We're going to have to accept some inconveniences along the way, or accept some things that maybe weren't so good for us in terms of at the time, didn't create the best feeling, but it helped grow us to be the person we need to be, or we're moving us faster towards what we need to accomplish. Okay, so keep in mind this. The first one is why, and the key around this and the choices is managing your emotions. Because if you make choices based on your emotions that you can trust, and you're not looking for that instant gratification of now, you're going to make much more progress. Okay. So keep in mind the first one of the why. The second one is the what. Okay. The most productive people I know always say no more than yes. And they're saying no to others, and they don't feel bad about saying no to others because they know what a yes to others would mean in terms of what they want to accomplish. So what I found is that if we're going to be focused, focus requires us to understand what's most important and to say no, what isn't important. Okay, so and a key thing that I talked about earlier is deciding what you don't need to know. And that's a very, very important for leaders, because if you want to know everything and you need to know everything to feel in control, you will ask about everything. And a lot of times for us is in terms of our emotions too, is that we want to know everything so that we feel more in control. And so it's so important for us to think about this in terms of our own life, in terms of, we have to feel great about doing the important. In other words, we're going to have to say no to more people and to others and to ourselves sometimes, and say we have to focus on what is going to take us towards the direction we want to take, and as fast as we want to get there. So it's about direction and pace versus being busy. So the second choice is not just the why. The second choice now is what. Okay, so we have that the emotions. What are we going to? And saying no enables us to keep the important important. Okay, and if you think about this, focus is subtraction. It's not addition, because you just can't keep adding things into your life and adding things into your day. It's what you drop off so that you can put your time on the important. I don't know if you attended any of my sessions before, but I talked about a sculptor's assistant. Sculptor's assistant bringing in a big block of marble into the studio, and a very dirty, dusty, disfigured marble. And he says to the sculptor, what are you going to make out of this? I can't imagine you making anything beautiful of this thing. It looks so terrible. And so the sculptor looks at it from every angle and says, I see a magnificent stallion, a horse, a horse with flowed mane, flared nostrils, very muscular. And he says, but how are you going to make that horse? He says, I'm going to take my hammer and I'm going to take my chisel, and I'm going to chip away and chip away and chip away everything that's not a horse. And what's left over will be a masterpiece. It's the same for us. We have to drop things that aren't important so we can put the right resources on the important. And the other thing here is what I found is make having emotional courage and make the tough choices is the best leaders I know. They're great at choosing between great and good. Everybody can choose between good and bad. And you think about all the choices we have now, there's opportunities, there's lots of good opportunities for us to address. But, if we try to do all the good at once, we don't have the resources to move them, the best of those forward. So I found with very, very successful people is they're very good at dropping the good and subtracting the good in order to put the right resources on the great and the right amount of your time on the great. So a good thing to think about for yourselves is what is the great for you? And to think about if you're not dropping any good during the week, then probably you're not as focused as you should be. And here's what I found also working with very, very, very successful people. They're always creative. So they're always coming up with new ideas. And you'll never, ever be able to really action all the ideas you come up with. And so I found that one of the most successful things you could do at the end of each week is triage. Subtract out the things that shouldn't be in your focus and you don't have the time for. You thought it was great at the beginning of the week, but keep your focus on the great. Okay? So why? Handling your emotions, not just jumping to instant gratification. What? Subtracting out the bad, subtracting out some of the good so that you can focus on the great. And so that means saying no more to others. Now, the third W is who. And here's what I found. If you're trying to do everything yourself, you're only going to make so much progress. It's you and others which make the most progress here. And so it's understanding it doesn't always have to be you that are doing this. And here's what I found with the most successful people, including leaders, is they think who before how. They're always thinking who can help me, who knows more about this. Sometimes a 5-minute call with the right person will save you 5 hours. Okay? And so it doesn't always have to be you. And if you're doing everything, you're not the best at everything. So you're not leveraging your own talents when you're doing something that someone else could do. And so if you really want to use the majority of your potential, you should always be letting go of things that someone else can do just as well or better. And for you to challenge yourself to do and grow and add even more skills to use more and more of the potential that's inside you. They say a potential is like the foundation of a building. When it's very, wide and deep, you can grow a great tall building. It's the same with a person too. But, if it's not in your foundation and it's not in your strength, you shouldn't be doing it. You should be finding someone else to do it. So I found that, if you're really going to make better choices and you're going to use your talents the best, you always have to think who before how in almost anything, because always the best who can give you a better how or give you advice on towards it. And the faster you get rid of it to others, the faster you can get on to something else. And so if you think about it, it's the relationship in your life that really help you the most. So think about from the beginning of the why. It's the relationships around you that really give you the strong emotions in terms of teamwork and everything else. It's the strong relationships that you build that people are willing to help you as well. I don't know if you've heard me say this story before, but I always ask people, from the Bible, the story of Noah. Did Noah start building the ark before it started raining or after it started raining? Right? And everybody says before. So when you need something done, you need to build the relationships before you need it. Okay. So the third choice now is who. And the thing is always don't think it has to be you that are going to do this. It can be others. and build the relationships around you. So if you think about it, it's really, it takes more than you. It's a team to make these things happen. Okay. So grow, leverage, recognize, reward the people around you, because you're going to achieve more if you're not trying to put it all down on yourself. One of the most powerful preachers in America, T.D. Jakes, he created a huge congregation. He's a movie producer, created movies, wrote unbelievable books. And he mentioned something I think was very powerful that I heard. He says, show me your phone. Show me your contacts. I can take a look at your contacts and the quality of your contacts, and I can tell your net worth, because who you put around you is really what is going to be making you as well. Because if you surround yourself with people that are above you and it's going to pull you forward, you're going to achieve a lot more. If you surround yourself with people who have strengths and your weaknesses, you're going to leverage their talents, they're going to leverage yours around and more. Okay, so keep in mind this in terms of yourself. How powerful are the relationships you are building around you? Okay, that's a key question for you, because if you're going to think who and you don't have any who's around you to help, you're not going to get very far either. And what I realized over the years is it's the relationships I build around me that has driven all the success I had. And it's the relationships I didn't build, or I destroyed, or I had disagreements with, that often block some doors for me in terms of future things as well. So think back for yourself. You know what you can't blame others, but the more you make strong decisions around the who that are in your life and who are around you, they do two things. They help you grow faster, achieve more what you want, and also they give you that more emotional stability and courage to make the more difficult choices along the way too. So keep in mind the who. And as the old saying goes, if you don't have a who, the who is always going to be you. So let's cover the last couple W's, and also give you some time for questions and so forth. The next one is when. And a lot of people don't really take into account these next two, which is when and where. Is that when can you do your best on something? Okay, what time of day or so forth. The right when on almost anything is what can you do now? And they say top, time management expert, David Allen says, if you can do it less than 2 minutes, you should do it right away, because it takes you another 2 minutes to get your head back in frame to do it another time. But the key thing is when, if you could do it now, if you can delegate it right away, if you can ask for help right away quickly, or you can share information with someone and say, hey, let's have a call and delegate it later. Whatever you can do now, you should do. Okay. But the thing is that sometimes you shouldn't do it now if you're not in the best situation to do it. I'll give you an example for myself. Often, if I have to do something for the end of the next day, and it's the end of this day, I'm not going to be great at doing a great job. So sometimes I will create a draft during the late afternoon, and the next morning I'll finalize that draft. Because I don't know about you, but I'm a morning person. So I'm much more clearer in the morning. So an hour in the morning is like equal to 2 or 3 hours in the afternoon. So think about for yourself, what are your best times? And you should put your most difficult work in your best times. And so sometimes it makes sense to delay something. So if it's not due for 2 days and you're going to put it in your best time, then you should do that. But you should make a commitment to yourself that, hey, I'm going to do this tomorrow at 10 a.m. and do it. In other words, the biggest thing that's going to drive you emotionally down is you make commitments to yourself and you keep breaking them. So if you're going to delay it, you delay to a specific day and time. Also from your brain. Whatever's on our mind is in our subconscious, or everything's on our mind is always on our mind. But we have a tendency to put it off our mind if we make a day and time specific that we're going to do this. In other words, if you say, I'm going to do this 10 a.m. tomorrow, your brain sometimes says, hey, I don't have to worry about this right away because I know I made a commitment to do it tomorrow. So it goes off your head. But you say, well, I'm going to do this later. It sticks in your head more because you did not make a specific day or time that you're going to do it. So the brain works better with specifics. And so the more you make specifics on something, the less stress you're going to have. And the more you keep your commitments on those specifics, certainly you're going to have less stress and you're going to accomplish more. So keep that in mind in terms of when are you best to do a certain thing. And it could be your best in different ways to do. Like for me, I'd rather have meetings in the afternoon because I'm not as focused in terms of detailed work, and I put my detailed work in the morning. And all the leadership teams I had, I always asked people, I said, when are your best times? And at least 60 to 70% of my teams all the time said mornings were their best times. So I put for strategy meetings, very important meetings, I put them in the morning. For checkup meetings, follow-up meetings, and so forth, I put those in the afternoon because I wanted to people use where do it and be involved when they were at their best energy. So keep this in mind. If you can do it now, do it. If you can forward stuff, get thing. If you can do it in 2 minutes, 5 minutes, quick, do it. But it's better to do it another time. Set a specific day and time in your calendar and promise yourself you'll do it. And you'll probably get it done much faster than if you try to do everything right now. Okay. And remember this, combine this when and who, and a lot of times you don't have to do something right away, but you just need to get another who involved quickly that can help you some advanced thinking and move things forward faster. So it's a good combination to use who and when. All right, and so use the who, and how can you get them involved quickly as possible. So think about this. The important requires your best. So put it in your best time. Okay. The last W is where. Understand and plan where you want to do the important and so forth. So, now if you have a mobile phone with you, you can take calls anywhere. You don't have to be at home. You don't have to be in front of a screen. The 4G capability, 5G coming, etc. So, think about it. Do you need to do it here, or can you do this somewhere else? Some of the most powerful coaching sessions I had was on the phone with someone when I'm walking in the park. And I specifically asked them if they want to do that. They walk in there. And so wherever their best time or best place is. So, it requires planning ahead sometimes. So if you look at your work that you need to do, think about it, put the combination there, when and where. Maybe it's best for me to do this later today when I'm out on my walk. I have a number of people who do their thinking or other types of things when they're walking the dog. So where can be very, very powerful. And if you know it, you'll be much more let's say, creative in certain places than you are, say, in front of your PC screen or your Mac screen or whatever. So they say this, think about this, you know, if you really want creativity in terms of spaces, you don't want to have a ceiling. Or if you're in a big room, you want a high ceiling because high ceiling makes people more creative. There's more space there. If you really want to get people to come down and really decide on things, put yourself in a small room, lower ceiling, that drives it. So there's some psychological things around here in terms of what wares are most powerful. That's why when you have a meeting of only 2 or 3 people, you have to gauge the meeting room size, because the more people are closer together, the more the conversation becomes closer. But if you put 3 people in a meeting room that does 20 and they start spreading out, it's not the same energy in the room. So, all these dynamics come down to where, you know, where are you most productive? Where do you get the best out of everybody, etc. And so it requires planning ahead sometimes. And so that you're putting yourself in the right environment that will bring the best out of you. Okay. So those were the 5 W's. Why, what, who, when, and where. And if you think about these things, those are how you make the best choices. And it's a combination always, and I just do a quick summary here. It's the combination, of those 5 and what you're dealing with. So why? Okay, are you doing what you want most for what you want most? Or are you doing it for what you want now? Or the feeling you want later, or the feeling you want now? On what? You should be saying no more often, so that say no to the unimportant so you can put more time on the important. And so you say yes fewer times. Okay. And then think about who. You should be thinking who all the time before you think how. As much as you can, think who before how. Get them involved as quick as possible. Build strong relationships around you so you have powerful who's that you can leverage. When? Think about when is the best time to do it. And sometimes it's worth delaying some things to do it at a time when you'll be in much better energy. Or it's sometimes they say, do what you can now and get other people involved so that you can maybe have a chat with them later and finalize something. So the combination of now and a specific day and time is very, very powerful. And the last one is where. Where are you at your best for do that particular task? I know for me, I'm not at my best in terms of being creativity, being in front of a screen. And so I'll always go take a walk to have some think about what I'm going to do. And I'm not going to be the greatest job if I create and I try to spend 3-4 hours and perfect something in front of a screen. I'm better off of spending a few hours drafting it or an hour drafting it, take a walk, go somewhere, come back to it later on. I know when I was programming earlier in my career, I used to always take some breaks when I had something difficult, came back, and the answer was when I was walking that way. Okay. I once had a friend that went for a run at lunch, came back from his run at lunch and said, hey, I got this idea and this idea and this idea. And I said, yeah, well, what do we do then? He goes, I don't know, my run ended. so, keep in mind this. Those last two are very, very powerful. When and where, but when and where is only powerful is if you think ahead about how you're going to use your time. And when and where are extremely powerful when you use it on the important things. Okay, the important things. Okay, so why, what, and who is something you're always going to be asking yourself when anything hits you. When and where, the most powerful comes from that when you're also thinking ahead. So take a few minutes right now. Think about for yourself, how could you use these 5 W's to make better choices for yourself? Okay. And think about, the emotions. Think about how can you manage your emotions better, or think about which emotions can you trust on why? How can you keep focused on the important what? How can you build and leverage strong relationships around you for the who? When is the best to do the important and when you're going to get the best energy? And where is the best place to do those types of things? Okay. Now, before I go forward on anything, can I open it up for any questions? Any questions or comments on this? And I'll keep the overview screen up for now before I share the other things. Any questions or comments? You can open up your screen and your mic and ask, or you can put them through the chat. Either way. Okay, let me guys ask you a question. Can you put into the chat function, what's your biggest takeaway from today? Can you type into the chat function then, what's your biggest takeaway from what I covered today? Let's see what people are taking away so everybody can see each other's. Choose between great and good. How about the rest of you? Yeah, match the room to number of people. That is huge. Managing the emotions. Yep. Decide what you don't need to know. Yep. Yep. Managing time well. Schedule. How would the person I'd like to become? Yeah. Yeah. I'll tell you, there's two things that I found, and I'll highlight for you. Is that first, deciding what you don't need to know, and deciding what you need to know and when. In other words, that will determine what you're going to look at in terms of information, alerts, or anything. I think I took off all the alerts. I took off a lot of things. I subscribed to a lot less. I also subscribe to things that I know that I can easily get the information very, very quickly. Uh, I remember Henry Ford once said, he was sued for libel in court, and he was on the stand, and the person was asking him, "What's the price of a quart of milk? What's the price of this? What's this? What's that?" Very basic things in life, and Henry Ford couldn't answer it. And he says, "Listen," he says, "I have a phone in my office. If I need to know something, I pick up the phone. I know the right person to call to get it. I don't need to concern myself with all this information that's not going to help me move forward." And so those are very, very important. So think about for your own takeaways from today. And think about these 5 W's. For everybody who registered, I'll send these materials, these slides out for you, and you can remind yourself. Okay. So these are very, very powerful to move forward. So just a couple things for you to finish up. If you think about all what we talked about, you're going to have to make better choices. Okay. And the better choices are really how you manage your subconscious mind. Because, if I ask you the question, if you heard me talk before, if I ask you, what percentage of what you do every day is driven by your conscious mind, and you would say 20, 30, 40, it's actually only 2 or 4%. It's only 2 to 4% that's driven consciously. The rest is subconsciously. And I'll prove it to you with one single question. Can you tell me your next thought? You can't. It just pops up. So if you're really going to manage your choices, you have to manage your dominant thoughts. And so what I found is that the most successful, they put their top priorities as a dominant thought. It's always in front of them. So it's going to pop up more to make better choices on achieving that. And so there's two things that you really have to think about is you have to think about repeating your dominant thoughts, and it's going to drive you to keep taking action on it. And you have to do some repetition in terms of reminding yourself about this. In other words, create a habit to remind you, and you're basically training your mind what to focus on. Okay. So the more you do it, the more it's inside your subconscious, it's going to bring it up at the right time. It's like also when you hear your favorite song too often, you start singing it in the shower, right? And it comes back to you. So keep in mind this. How do you remind yourself of what's most important? Because if you remind yourself in more powerful ways as a habit, you're going to make better choices on what you really want, and you won't allow the urgent, the thing that's going to make you feel instantly gratified now to consume you. Okay? So keep in mind that dominant thought. Now, a couple of resources for you. A number of years ago, I wrote a book called The Truth About Getting Things Done. Here's a summary, and you'll have this when you get the slides. So here's a summary of all key things in terms of, say, managing your focus and managing your time better. Okay. And it's really just 42 truths around that. So you'll get that when I send the slides out. Okay. So, and if you can, it's a great, interesting book to read, and it's common sense. So it's something that you can pass on to your team members if you're leading a team. The other resource I'll give you is a couple years ago for Asian magazine. I wrote the 5 ways in managing your time. A lot of what we talked about this is today, and I used adding, subtracting, 7. Add. You have to put the important first. If you think in the second one, you have to subtract, so that you keep the important important. So first you add the important, you subtract what's not important. You have to multiply. You multiply by influencing others to help you take more action, because success is a team sport. You divide, in other words, you leverage your strengths. Why should you do it if someone else is better than you for doing this? And so number 3 and number 4 are all about who. And you think number 5, time management is only important for how you look at your life. And what you remember in your life are 2 things: experiences and achievements. You don't remember the emails you sent. You don't remember the meetings unless it was a fantastic meeting, like meeting your future partner or something like that first time. But you think about it, when we come towards the end of our life, we're always thinking about the great experiences we had or the great achievements. We don't think about when we were busy. Okay. So here's a resource for you, and you'll have that when I send out the slides. Couple reminders for you. Grow your beliefs. Think you can, think you can't. Either way, you will be right. And I think that was Henry Ford who said that. But, you think about it, we talked about dominant thoughts. The most powerful dominant thoughts are your beliefs. So if you grow your beliefs, you're just growing your capacity to do more. And often average is basically just the absence of a belief to use your abilities forward. So when we said about dominant thoughts, think about it. A dominant thought can create a habit, can drive better choices, but the dominant thoughts on reinforcing the right beliefs will create even more for you. Okay. And a present for you. Okay, so when you get the slides, there's a present for you. My first book I wrote was Time to Get Started Here. And when you get the slides, you'll see a link here in my website where you can download this book for free. And
it's
so
a great book.
Oh, really? Good, thanks. And so think about this. It's just simple thoughts organized by one word focus at the top and so forth. But it will help you with some inspiration sometimes, or trigger some ideas for you. And here's a tip for you when you want to read something. Whenever you read something that's very useful for you and you say, well, that's interesting, don't stop at that's interesting. Ask yourself the question, how would I apply this to my life? Because when you store it in your brain as an action, it's easier for your brain to retrieve it at the time when you need it. I did this for many years because I was reading books on a palm, and I would read only a few pages and then I would reflect. I'd read and reflect. And basically my reflection was always, how am I going to use it? When I entered that particular situation in real life coming up, my brain offered up the solution because I stored what I learned as an action, not as something vague that's interesting. Okay. So you get that book if you have it. And then the last thing I'd say is that here's my contact details. If I can help you guys in any way. I mean, my real focus is helping leaders let go and really leverage the people around them. And so those are contact details. And also, if you would like to get daily reminders from what we covered today. So in this case, I usually focus daily reminders on leadership aspects, but in this case, I will focus the daily reminders around these productivity things and the things we talked about today. And so if you'd like to have these daily reminders, all you have to do is send me an email or an SMS message to me with your name and mobile number, and I'll include you in a special group so that you can get the reminders every day for the next 6 weeks or so. And so it helps to have the learning stick long enough to creating new habits. Okay. So we have a few minutes left. If you have any questions, comments on some of the things we covered today, I just wanted to give you some ideas for your own thoughts around the choices that you could make. But here's what I found. I don't know if you've ever seen a framework like the 5 whys to be productive, but I found when we can deal with those 5 whys, we're going to make much better choices about how we use our time. And there's a reason why the top why is number one, because most of the time people make the wrong choices because they're listening to the wrong emotions. You have to learn which emotions you can trust and which emotions you can't trust, because we do make our decisions around that. And often being productive is not about making the right emotional decisions on the big things. It's about making the right emotional decisions on many different decisions during the day. But when they add up, the cumulative impact is huge. Okay. So, any questions, comments about today before we finish?
Great day, thanks.
Yeah, I found that talk really good. Thanks. I'm just been thinking about this idea you mentioned of best leaders are great at choosing between great and good.
Yeah.
And that seems like a skill that would need to be cultivated as you work through the 3 million things that are thrown at you in any given day. Does that then line up with delegating necessary but good to various people and focusing yourself on great?
Exactly. And the foundation of that is our judgment, our business judgment, right? And so how are you looking at these choices? Are you looking at it one dimensional, or are you looking at it overall very quickly? And so that's why it's so important for you to read books, so important to surround yourself with great people, leverage people, whatever, because the foundation of you making better choices is this business judgment. Okay. And so it's also putting us out of our comfort zone occasionally so that we stretch that judgment. But they say you should hire for attitude, but I think the second thing you hire from attitude is business judgment. Because you know basically when you hire people, you want them to be able to make decisions without you. And so you need people who have a strong foundation so that they make better choices. Very good comment and question, Christopher. Anybody else? Any other questions or comments?
Just saying thank you, Mark, and see you soon.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, thank you. So don't forget, if you want the daily reminders through a daily WhatsApp, send me your email and or SMS with your name and mobile number, and I'll include that as well. I'll send out the recording and the slides from today later today, and also I probably will get an illustration done of this one, similar to the other illustrations I had for the virtual master classes. So thank you very much, everybody. I wish you a great finish to your week, and thanks for being on the line today.